Welcome to the Mostly Legal Podcast, a show where we examine the people who make law firms operate. I'm Amanda Copeless. I'm the Executive Director for Sheffield, Lohman & Wilson, a mid-sized law firm based in Central Florida. I'm super excited about today's guest because what she is going to teach us about law firm marketing blew my mind, and I'm sure it's going to do the same for you as well.
And I'm Rob Joyner, Chief Revenue Officer at Centerbase. Unlike Amanda, I know the power and impact solid marketing can have on law firms. But she'll never believe me, so I'm counting on our guest, Brandy Hobbs, to set the record straight. Brandy started her career thinking she would be an attorney, but she's now a strategic change innovator, and man, does she have some wild insight for us. Before we get started, we want to thank our podcast sponsor, Centerbase, software built to power the growth of mid-sized law firms. Let's dive in.
Brandy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we have Brandy Hobbs. She is the Director of Operations and Process Improvement at Offutt Kerman. You are an accredited legal professional. You have a Master of Professional Studies in Law Firm Management from George Washington University. And we actually talked about this in season 1, about how it's one of the very few schools that actually does a master's degree in legal studies. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes. You started out as an executive assistant in a law firm, and you've really worked your way up and held a variety of positions. And I'd love to hear you talk a little bit now about your career progression and where you are and where you've been, what you're doing now.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's important to me that people know where I started. I didn't go to school thinking I wanted to be in law firm marketing or law firm management. I always thought I'd be a lawyer someday. And after about 7 years in a different industry altogether, managing and brokering professional speakers, I said, I want to go to a law school. And my husband said, oh my gosh, you're going to hate working with lawyers. And I was like, watch me. Like, this is going to be great. So I went on careerbuilder.com and I applied for an executive assistant position. That's how it was marketed, for the law firm managing partner at DLA Piper. And he was one of 2 co-managing partners in that office. And he had had a dedicated secretary for 28 years. And she had gone out on medical leave, and he had hired someone else. And she went out for maternity leave. And I took a temp position. And I thought, this is going to be great. 4 months in a law firm, and then I'm going to law school.
Were you worried that that position had like a reputation?
I had no idea what I was getting into. Like, I knew nothing. I didn't know anything about the law firm. I had looked it up online. I had no idea it was the largest in the world at the time. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I did not know what the position would entail. I remember having my interview with the managing partner, Steve Pigeon, who taught me more than I could have ever imagined learning in that position. But he asked, what kind of law do you want to practice? And I was like, I'm not sure. Maybe like family law, like your wife who handled adoptions, which is not the same. So, just really, really rough start. But I cross-trained for a few weeks and took it on, and then loved every minute of it for 2 years. I stayed and just kept learning. It was trial by fire. I ended up working with 5 litigation associates and the co-managing partner and a corporate associate. Had the best time, and a headhunter.
And at what point did you decide you didn't want to go to law school?
Oh, that's later, Amanda. That's way down the line. Oh my
gosh. All right.
I'll make it quick. Long story, long enough. A headhunter who was a friend kept calling and saying, I want to move you to this law firm. I want to move you to that law firm. And I just said, don't call me unless you have something like what I used to do for professional speakers, managing, sales, marketing, in a law firm, making more money than I make now. And he called, and that's how I moved into the director of marketing role at a small firm in Scottsdale. I got accepted to law school, and promptly found out that my husband needed to move for his job. So I had to leave the law firm, not for law school, but for a new city in a new state across the country.
And then decided not going to law school.
Yeah. So I'm curious, at a small firm, as a director of marketing, you're going in, you're the only marketing person. What does that really entail?
So I was the first person they had ever had working on marketing at a firm with 30 some odd attorneys. And it was really me trying to get a handle on who they were actually serving and what they were trying to sell, because it was a hodgepodge of people who had left different firms or people who had been there their entire careers. And there wasn't really a clear message, a clear marketing stance. There wasn't a marketing budget. They had used an outside consultant for years who had helped them, prop up their website and put together flyers.
I
But it
think you
ended up,
literally just described every small law firm
yeah,
ever.
it, it
Just
ended up it ended up being really business development coaching. And that's actually
Yeah.
how I moved into business development, because I was able to
Okay.
take what I had used coaching professional speakers years before and sit with the attorneys and figure out who their target client was, where they needed to spend their time, how they should spend their money, what they needed to say about themselves. So it was a really interesting opportunity, and one I'm really grateful I had, because it helped kind of put in perspective for me what I was really passionate about.
So when you were doing the marketing at this firm, did you have buy-in from the attorneys? Were they actually bought into marketing, or was it something you were having to kind of pull them across the line?
I think it's really interesting because it was a mixture, as it is at most law firms. There were people already doing things that they didn't realize were marketing or business development. And so helping them add some structure to it was a little difficult. But I remember talking to folks who really didn't know, like, at all what they should be doing, and saying to them, okay, this is where your audience lives, right? These are the people you want to hire. So this is the organization I would get in front of. And this is, where you can join up and offer your services, try to get on a board. It was not pulling teeth. It was not rocket science. It was simply helping them see past, like, their day job, right? Like, look
right.
beyond the desk that's in front of them. So,
If you can't bill for it, it's very hard to do it when you're a lawyer.
right.
I
And
think sometimes
also, if
not
you've
one, but
never had, like, a reliable resource in house that's checking up on you and saying, like, hey, like, before your work slows down again, you might ought to want to be doing these things, right? Look beyond the law firm, look beyond your desk.
one of the titles, I'll put that in air quotes, that you also have is major problem solver. And I read that and I thought, oh my gosh, that's like I could literally live with that title. Tell me
Yeah.
what that means to you.
So actually, I have a colleague to thank for that at my last firm. So the last firm where I was the chief strategy officer, also a small firm, also new to the position and position new to the firm, I was in charge of so many different things. And one of them was IT related.
Oh
And
dear.
so a colleague of mine who also helped facilitate our relationship with our managed service provider put on his out of office, for X, contact this person; for Y, contact this person; for major problems, contact Brandy. And another colleague saw it and forwarded it to me and was like, hey, like, you have a new title. So I proudly took that and put it on my LinkedIn profile, because that is really how I consider myself operating within the firm. Is, if you have an issue, I will fix it. I will find a way. So I enjoy the title, and I appreciate
That's
that he thought of me that
Good for
way.
you.
You
Good for
mentioned
you.
okay, so you mentioned your title at your last firm, which Chief
Yes.
Strategy Officer.
Yes.
And when I met you, I had never heard that title in a law firm before. So, tell me, what does that mean? What did you do? What does your day look like?
So I think I won't speak on behalf of the entire industry, because I think it changes law firm to law firm, right? It's not as standardized as something like COO or
Right.
director of administration, right? Um, but for me, it meant I was there to help focus their marketing and business development efforts through strategy. And I was also there to help direct some of the operational functions. Um, I was able to work with that firm to start strategic planning in a way that they had not done before, and really start analyzing how we wanted to operate going forward, and how we wanted to sell ourselves. And it was a broad swath. I mean, it really was an
Yeah.
umbrella title. And we landed on that title because it was not as well defined as COO or CEO. They weren't ready to
Right.
make that leap, but I was not comfortable staying in a marketing only role. And I had reached out to them because I had heard that they were ready to make some changes and looking for someone like me. And so it was a collaboration.
If I was kind of plain language putting it, it was a kind of a combination of
Yeah.
strategy, but also being a firm leader, right? And
Yes. Yeah.
so, but because of your business development background, it was really very focused on that strategy with business development as well as into operations, basically.
Where do you draw the line for, yourself in that position versus an administrator or somebody like Amanda? Like, where do you
Well,
draw that line between the two?
Well, nobody can be somebody like Amanda. Let's make sure
I
we
was
get
about to
that
say
straight.
nobody's Amanda. Let's be
Nobody's
clear.
like Amanda, but maybe
Yeah.
somebody who is better at their job than Amanda. How do you draw that line?
No, I actually think there was a lot of value in the fact that the firm had an administrator who they saw as being there to manage their professional support staff.
Okay.
And it was a very defined role. And so I came in and was able to absorb all of the things they wanted to do and didn't yet have someone to take on. So for me, that was the opportunity, right? Is here's a firm that wants to grow, wants to change, wants to pursue some operational efficiency, wants to focus more on marketing and business development beyond what they've done historically. And I'm the person that can do that. So I didn't have to draw any lines. I was really there to catch all
Yeah.
of the new ideas.
Oh, that's awesome. That's exciting. What an exciting role. Okay, I'm going to let Rob ask a question, but I have one more question before I do.
Amanda's just taking
Your
over today.
Oh, I know.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I keep thinking, okay, it's
She's just
Rob's
on a
turn.
roll.
I know. I'm just
Go
so
ahead.
fascinated by these job titles and also by
Yeah.
how your roles are so different in legal operations from all the people we have interviewed before, right? There's this interesting crossover where your marketing and your strategy play together, and our season 1 guests were just very like we had some functional specialists, HR, IT, but then everybody else were really full firm administrators. And so many times our jobs get lost in the day to day that we aren't able to take that step back and think about how to push the firm forward that we would like to. So I'm just jealous that you have been in positions where you've been able to do that. And so now your role is director of operations and process improvement. And so tell me just a little bit like 10,000-foot level, what does a day look like for you?
A little bit of everything. It's actually, I mean, today alone, I was talking about a marketing project, a billing project, systems integrations, had meetings with my team that includes facilities, onboarding, knowledge and innovation. Um, it's it's a grab bag and I really love it. I think that was one of the things that attracted me to this position is while the firm is trying to grow and improve from an operational efficiency standpoint, they're also very open-minded and well run. And so there's just a great sense of ownership to say, hey, here's an issue that I noticed. I'd like to take it on. And they say, okay, have at it. Right. So it's kind of that mixture of where I was with my past firm um, and better structure to
Yeah.
be able to tackle some things that I wouldn't have been able to tackle there.
Okay,
So,
Rob, now I actually am going to let you ask a question and I'm going to
thank
shut up.
God,
Okay,
man.
your turn.
It's
Wait.
going to be a
Uh,
long
wait.
season. So,
Wait,
Br-
now what I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm shutting up. Go, go, go.
Brandy, so when we did our call before the podcast episode, you were talking about how you go about these new projects and how you try to, a lot of the time people have been doing it the same way for a long time.
Right.
Can you talk about that process? So, you decide we want to do X. How do you approach that? How do you plan it out? And then how do you execute it?
It depends on the project. So one of the things that I've done at this firm, and we've just started, so I don't have a lot of data to show for the work yet, but we've launched a BXCOE. So Accenture published this research recently about the business of experience, and it's about marrying client experience and employee experience to take a holistic approach to improving your business. And the COE is a center of excellence, right? And so instead of just like
Right.
launching your average um, project management office, which I could have done and kept the acronym a little shorter, I decided we're gonna aim high. And so we've launched this program where people throughout the firm can submit projects. And as part of that, I've created a leadership team of our administrators. We're meeting monthly. People are meant to submit all of their projects throughout the firm and then come to these meetings and really talk about what they want to do, what they want to tackle. And then I and a couple of other people on our team can help them figure out how to go about it in the most efficient way possible and to come out with the best results.
So it could really be any department. It could be HR that wants to automate onboarding employees. It could be legal assistants who want to automate forms development or letter writing. Is that a little bit about what it is?
Yes. And it's big projects that are coming out of IT and marketing and um, legal ops. We have a variety of different groups that are submitting, and they can be big or small. And we've come up with a ranking system. So, are they managed? Are they monitored? Or are they informational? And then based on that categorization, how do I and others on my team get involved? So, if it's a managed project, to your question, Rob, I would scope it out. I'd identify the requirements necessary. I joke that all I do all day is ask, what does success look like? That's what I'm here for,
That's what I
right?
was trying to get you to
Yeah,
say.
what does success look like? And at the end, how do we know that we've run a successful project or we've reached the outcome that we were looking for? So scope it out, come up with our requirements, come up with our timeline and budget, stakeholders, steps along our project plan, and carry those out. And because I've only been here for 4 months, I stepped into the middle of a lot of projects, some of which were well scoped, some maybe not as well. And so we're really just starting this process, but I'm very excited about it because I feel like as much as it is about operational efficiency, it's about communication. And with a firm that's growing as fast as ours is, there's just so much going on and so many people who need to be in the know about that activity. So it's been really helpful.
How do you define fast growing for a law firm?
I didn't
Your firm.
define it here. So, one of the things I enjoyed when I was interviewing for this job is that on the website it says one of the fastest growing law firms in the world, I think.
Good
I don't
marketing.
know.
Yeah.
It's great marketing. And
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know what that's rated against, but I do know
Okay.
that this firm is growing very aggressively and very intentionally. And it's wonderful to see. It's a great
So,
model that they've developed.
Brandy, my question, going back to some of the process stuff, what are without giving insider information away, what are some of the most common types of projects people bring to you? Like the top three, maybe.
Right now, my law firm and probably most every other law firm is trying to figure out what is a person doing right now that can be given to a machine, right? Like what can we program out of this process? What can we make more efficient for the people doing
Yep.
it, right? That's where the augmentation comes in. And it's just a lot of without technology being the only solution, right? Making
Hmm.
sure that we're using our technology well. And I would say that kind of top of mind for me right now is that, like most large law firms, my law firm subscribes to some of the biggest names in the business. That comes with a really big price tag and a lot of bells and whistles, most of which we're not fully utilizing.
Wait a
So
minute. Hold on. Back up. You work for a law firm that has legal technology with lots of bells and whistles, and you don't use them all. This is just
you're
such a
shocked, right?
fascinating. This is a fascinating concept. Rob, do you find you run into that on a regular
Yeah, but
basis?
I think that's common across technology in general. I mean, you could go to a company like ours, and we spend as a software company a lot on software, and most people you're only going to find adopt between, I don't know, 15 and 30%
Really?
of the abilities of the software. Yeah, just because it takes people get really excited, you start using a new software, and then just like anything, it's that ongoing training, it's that ongoing,
Right.
how are we going to continue to lean in and do it? People just get busy.
Well, and that's where I come in is I'm supposed to, take this holistic look at the firm and all of these projects, right? These implementation projects and these different softwares and figure out which applications are we actually using, which ones are we fully utilizing, and where can we slim up and maybe put our
Yeah.
resources elsewhere, or maybe train up people who can do the process better than whatever the technology was that we tried to implement.
Rob,
So
I need a brandy. I
You
okay.
need a
have
brandy. My
me.
firm no, but my firm needs a brandy.
Oh,
I
fair
don't
enough.
Well, Amanda, I was kind of, I'm you. We spoke about your role just a week
Yeah.
ago, Amanda, and you were talking about what your day looks like, and I'm hearing what Brandy's saying. And it's almost like, you want to do a lot of what Brandy's doing, but it's
Yes.
just natural in your role that all the fires come to you, and you don't get a
Right.
chance to do that.
Right. I would like to do 80% more of what Brandy does than what I do now. I wish I had the time, right? That
Yeah,
in an ideal world, I would continue building out a strong administrative team, and I think other people in my same position that manage mid-sized law firms would love to spend more time getting into the strategy. And
right.
I think I don't know, Brandy, I think I actually you spoke at an ALA conference, and I think you said something, I'm trying to remember, but you said something like, "Why are we waiting to start working on strategy when when our house is in order? We should be working on strategy before we get to that point," right?
Right,
And so, I wish that I could learn something from you instead of waiting to work on strategy and projects. And I mean, I had a phone call today with somebody talking about implementing a piece of our software, and I really want to get something automated for a department, and it's going to take a lot of my time and effort and energy, and I just need to make sure that I can devote the time to that and that everything else can wait and or get delegated. And
right.
so I'm
I
I
think
jealous
have
that
that
your
I have
firm
I
has
have
you.
oh,
rev
thank you.
ops for that, Amanda.
Oh, I don't know what those words mean, Rob.
Uh,
Can you
it's kind of similar.
revenue operations? Is that what
Yes.
that means?
Yes. Exactly. They do
I like
everything
it.
behind the scenes to make things work well.
Well,
So,
Well, we all have those.
one of the things that I find with a lot of folks, is you get, like you said, Rob, I think you don't really have time, right? Or you don't make the time. You don't prioritize the process improvement. You prioritize doing the process. And that's where I come in and say, hold up, like you are wasting so much time, so much energy chasing after emails and sending people reminders and, um, setting deadlines that everybody blows. Like, what if we
Mhm.
just took one of those hours that you would spend wasting all of that time and energy and map it out differently and just take a different look at it? What are we trying to achieve, and why does it have to be done the way that you're doing it, or does it? And what can we change? So, I'm a little bit of a pain because I'm asking people to divert their attention, but hopefully, when I'm done with them, they find out that they've just freed up time, on a repeated basis.
If I'm thinking about this, given how much people hate change
Yeah.
and you're a change agent,
Oh, yeah.
do people really hate you?
Yeah, sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. It's a really good thing that I don't need to be liked. I like to be needed, but I don't need to be liked. So,
Yeah, I like to be
it's
needed, but I don't need to be liked. I love it.
yeah, it's
I
it's a challenge.
hey, Amanda,
I
it's my turn.
no, I want. Okay, go ahead.
So Brandy, Amanda keeps talking about mid-sized firms and needing somebody like you, right?
Yeah,
And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this podcast saying, "Wow, that sounds great." Um, we
I hope
couldn't bring
so.
somebody in like you just because of staff size. What, out of curiosity, you think about strategic planning. That's something that every firm should do. If somebody were to come to me and say, "Hey, if you were to come in, what are the first five things you'd look at for sales, or what are the first five things you'd look at for marketing?" From your
Mhm.
standpoint, from a strategy standpoint, what are the first few things that you try to address and would look at a firm as you're trying to help improve it?
So I always go back to a book, and this may
I
sound
love
very
books.
trite. I am such a nerd. Like, I
I
read up
love
about
writing down
everything.
what books I should read and then not actually reading
And
them.
then not
So,
doing that. Well, one of my favorite books is Reinventing Strategy by Willie Peterson. And
Mhm.
the the thing that I love about it is he really breaks down his model of strategy into just this one box on this one page. And it's basically, who will you serve and how will you serve them? And then the winning proposition, what will you do differently? And or better, I guess, than your competitors. And that leads you to your 5 key priorities. And that's kind of how I think of things. Like, who are we serving and what are we going to do different and better than they are to drive our superior profits and our improved customer experience or client experience.
Would you almost
And
consider that like defining your mission, or is that different?
I really think about it as the whole strategy, right?
Yeah.
Because if your mission is clear,
Mhm.
then you know what you're trying to achieve, and then it's really easy to work back from that, right? It's when things get muddy and you're trying to be all things to all people that you end up with problems. You end up with law firms that are serving just way too many groups and industries and not really focused
I
on
laugh when you
how
say
to.
that. I
Yeah.
laugh when you say that, Brandy, because it's like you go to these small, you might look at one of these small law firms, right? They have,
Right.
I don't know, 5, 10 attorneys, and they have every single practice area under the sun listed on their
Right.
webpage.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are a full service law firm, Rob. We have lots of practice areas.
Yep.
That's
You
it.
have like 36 attorneys and 482 service areas. That was always my favorite, is like to go to like a small firm site, and you open up like the practice areas or whatever it is. And it's like this
Oh, I'm
menu that you have to like
relating.
scroll through.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, the fact is, attorneys can do a lot of things, right? And so my
Mhm.
mission in talking to them about like strategically approaching their market was, I don't want to know what you can do. I want to know what you do really well. And if you earn my trust through that one thing that you do really well, then I will come back to you for all sorts of things, because then you're my trusted advisor, right? Somebody else far smarter than I coined that term a long time ago. But your trusted advisor is the person you go back to and say, hey, do you know anybody who can do X? Do you know anybody who can do Y? I don't want to see on your website that you do 47 things, because that tells me you don't do any of them well. So clean it up, right? Clean it up, focus your energy. And I really think law firms could benefit from that same mentality, whether you're, 250 attorneys strong or 2,500. Really focusing in on who you want to attract is
Well,
important.
then how do you address the fear that if I don't write mergers and acquisitions under my list, then somebody who's looking for an M&A attorney won't call me even though I have done those before?
They're not going to call you anyway, right? There's a million attorneys on the market, and your competition is out there saying, a million things as well. Just focus on what you do well and win that market segment. And then they will be the mouthpiece for you. They will be out there selling you. Um,
That's
that's
for any business, right?
right.
Just
And
just focusing. It makes
yeah,
so much difference.
it does. And
I am not feeling comfortable with this at all. You are really asking me to get out of my comfort zone. Everything I've
fair enough.
ever Well, I mean, everything I've ever known about law firm marketing, especially websites, is you make sure that you have a wide net of legal services you can provide so that you can catch all the fish. And it's an interesting concept. What you're saying is to catch fewer fish, but better quality. Is that like
Yes.
a good way of putting it? Interesting.
Well, and people who really want you and what you do, not people who are going to have a mediocre experience with you because this isn't what you spend most of your time doing, right? And I
Yeah,
think it's important to differentiate. I'm talking about the lawyer themselves, not necessarily the firm. The firm's beholden to the shareholders, right? So you may have to
right.
put 437 practice areas on your website. But when you're that one attorney, don't put all 47 on your bio, right? And don't try to sell yourself as an expert in all of these areas. So,
Where do
I
you,
like
right.
when
this.
you're, go ahead, Amanda.
No, I'm saying I like it. I just don't feel comfortable in it. That's all.
Yeah,
It's like a
it's like,
really
hey,
nice pair of boots that fit great but don't feel good, and this is
Right.
how this doesn't feel good. I mean, I know
I
you're
have a new pair of
probably
shoes on
right.
like that today.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Man, they're
Um,
hurting.
That's awesome.
no, I know that you are probably correct. I just need a little bit of time to sit in this because it is very different than
Yeah,
what I have been raised in law firms to think about as far as marketing and having your skill sets out there. So I'm gonna sit on this a little bit. Come back around to
fair
me in a
enough.
few months and see how I feel.
Fair enough. I
Rob,
feel
can
like
it be my turn to ask a question?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So you were talking about change agent, and you
yes,
have the accreditation of being a yellow belt for legal lean sigma. And those are
that's
a lot
correct.
of words that a lot of people probably haven't heard before.
Right.
I asked this question so Rob didn't have to say all of these words himself.
That was
So
so
I
will
would have
nice
you
of
I
you.
would have struggled. I would have stumbled.
All right, will you tell us a little bit about what that is and what that does
Yes.
and enlighten me?
I received the yellow belt through the Legal Lean Sigma Institute, which is an organization co founded by Catherine McDonough. And Catherine happens to be a mentor of mine now. But when I first went through the program, it was part of my master's program. And it's essentially the two concepts, lean and Six Sigma, coming together for the industry. And really, to break it down, it's all about eliminating waste and doing the right thing right every time with very little room for error. So I think for me, it's all about understanding the mechanics of what we're doing as a firm. How are we processing our bills? How are we writing our briefs? How are we orchestrating our technology projects? What do those systems look like? And then figuring out where the waste is. And in law firm, waste often looks like the same person touching the stuff multiple times.
Yeah.
So every time a
Yeah.
lawyer drafts something and then sends it to someone else to add stuff to it and then reviews it, and then somebody else marks it up and then
Yep.
reviews it, that's waste, right?
Oh my gosh, what about the people that FedEx the bills, pre-bills? We have some that overnight them out of town. Yes, Amanda.
Stop telling my secret.
Uh,
Well, you're not the only firm. I just think, it's important to understand what are we doing it and why are we doing it this way and how do we do it better. So the yellow belts is just a certification that says I got some education to show me how to break those systems down and better understand how things work and how to make them better.
So I have figured out one thing, and that is that not only do I need a brandy at my firm, I actually kind of want to also be a brandy
You could
is
because
be
there
a
gonna be a
that
job
brandy.
offer on the call? Do you wanna go to
no,
Florida?
yeah,
No.
brandy, come on down.
Sorry,
No,
that
I
job that
just
brought me
want to.
to North Carolina still exists. So get
Uh,
No,
me.
I just want to be brandy. I wanted to focus on these things. You're inspiring me. I want to go back to my
I
desk and
appreciate that.
really think through some of this process improvement because I can see it, right? I can look it, I can feel it, I can touch it. And I think anybody in a law firm who's in operations could look around and say, that could be done better, that could be done better, that could be done better. And I
Right.
love your message, which is take that hour and make it done better so that next time it's
You
done
have an
better.
hour to spare.
You have an hour
Yeah.
to spare. Oh,
it also goes back to the practice areas, right? And cutting
Right.
down on what you're doing and only doing what you do really well and what's the most profitable as well,
Right.
instead of trying to
Right.
do too much. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And it helps in so many ways, right? Because then you're not chasing leads you're never going to get, but you're also not doing work you can't do efficiently, right? You're giving
Yeah.
yourself a margin of profit that you didn't have before because you were busy chasing your tail, figuring out what the law says and what the statute is and all of these different rules and regulations you don't spend your time in. So it's a good it's a good topper. You
I
could
have
skip this
this
part,
little
by the way.
vein on my forehead that's, like, popping out right now.
Yeah.
What I need to do is call the Botox girl and be like,
Uh,
"This vein," and then she's gonna explain to me it's not from that, it's because you guys are, like, literally blowing my mind a little bit. In season 1, we talked about how I get itchy in uncomfortable situations, and this is making me very itchy, just FYI.
I'm sorry you're
So
itchy, but I will say,
but
um,
I'm inspired, right? It's also super inspiring, and I wanna get out there and do some of this. It's amazing.
so you want to do something that'll just like knock your socks off?
Yes,
Host
please.
a yellow belt event with Catherine and her team with your
Okay.
clients. So
Okay.
at one of my firms, we brought Catherine in with two other consultants from the Legally and Sigma Institute, and it was amazing. We had over 70 people in the room, I think, and half of them were our clients. We divided each table up, tables of 10 by client or by problem that you were solving. So we had some of our admin team come in as well. We worked on everything from the firm's onboarding process to individual clients' legal project management. It was amazing. It was 2 days of absolute fun and learning and collaboration. I've never seen so many happy clients in one place
Were
before.
the
So,
clients were the clients working on problems within their own companies or working with
yes.
problems? Okay. So they were just taking advantage of the training. And was it corporate clients or like
So we had
individuals?
all commercial clients. I want to say one of them
Okay.
was a nonprofit or a healthcare organization, but yeah, we had several tables. In fact, one client had two tables. They had so many people interested in getting certified, and we put it on the attorneys to invite who they wanted to include. And then they put it on their clients to pick what kind of process they wanted to improve or work on within their organization. And then they brought whoever they wanted from the organization with them. So we let them bring as many or as few people as they wanted and had an amazing time with it. Just because it was so client oriented that they were driving the dialogue, they were driving the process improvement, they were opening up the doors to say this is what we need help with in a way that they wouldn't in normal business interactions.
I think Catherine's phone is about to start ringing off the hook, just
Let's hope
FYI.
so.
We'll put her information in the show notes. How about that?
Yes,
I
sounds
appreciate
great.
that. She would love
That's
that.
awesome.
Brandy, one thing that I don't know if you mentioned it on this call, but you mentioned previously was your involvement with the LMA. Can you
Yes.
talk about that for a minute?
Yes. So when I did transition from being a legal assistant to being a director of marketing, it was a bit of a stretch. And someone recommended to me to get involved with the Legal Marketing Association. So I will never forget, my first session was actually with Tim Corcoran.
Oh, I
And
love him.
he was talking about pricing and profitability. And it was an
Yeah,
amazing session. And so that just helped me kind of get my grounding within legal marketing. I ended up being a member at large on the board there in Phoenix before we left to come to North Carolina. And I will say my involvement has largely been reduced to speaking at conferences. I spoke at
yeah.
like the virtual P3 conference in 2020, and I did speak at the annual conference this past year. But I think there's so much value in that group. And for me, primarily from the networking perspective, I heard a
Right.
couple of your past guests talk about this, but the association is mostly about the people that you meet and the questions you can ask and the things you can share. And LMA has been invaluable in that way.
So,
What was your presentation about?
It was strategy and client experience, a both and proposition, I believe was the title. I worked with people that are active in LMA and ALA. Chandra Storiston is at Visible Value,
oh, I heard
and
you two speak at ALA at the or
ALA,
C.
yes.
Yeah, okay. I did hear you too. Yes.
And Heather McCullough from Society 54. The three of us got together. We had met through a conference called CXPS. It's Client Experience for Professional Services, and that's a conference that I would also love to talk about because I've been going there for 5 years, and those people just speak to my soul. They're folks from industries outside of legal, primarily architecture, engineering, contractors. So we'd all, bonded over this client experience focus, and we took our topic to P3, and it was a lot of fun.
Okay. I have questions. So, LMA, Legal Marketing Association, there are
Yes,
a lot of people who are in both LMA and ALA because their jobs kind of cross over with the two of them.
yes.
Are the organizations really similar as far as what they are trying to accomplish, their mission, their values, and how they service the legal industry?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
No, I haven't really seen a lot of overlap. My experience with ALA, I should say, is very, very limited. So I
Okay.
wasn't involved with ALA until I got to North Carolina. So I'm speaking from like my general introduction and my past experience at the annual conference this year. It seems to me the focus for ALA is much more on management and governance, really understanding the ins and outs, everywhere from your super secretaries, your administrative managers, to your COO or CEO in Mike Baumgartner's case.
Yeah.
But for LMA, it's really different. That group is they used to do a lot of offerings for content for your very beginning legal marketers, right? Again,
Hmm.
no one goes to college saying, I'm going to be in legal marketing. So nobody comes out of college knowing what that is or how to do it. And so I
Yep.
think there was a lot of very beginning training. But they've really more focused on innovation and the growth of the industries and the variety of roles in a way that I haven't seen coming out of ALA. And that's not a bad thing. I just think that they are both very complementary organizations in that one is very much focused on operations and management and administration, and the other is really focused on, growth strategy, business development.
I think it's interesting because I went to a few LMA events here in Dallas, um, especially early on here at Centerbase, and even when you get to a mid-sized firm, you don't have a ton. And I'm going to make a blanket statement that might not be true for everybody, but you don't have a ton of emphasis on marketing, right? So you don't have a place similar to a firm administrator. I guess it can be a lonely position.
Mhm.
You don't have somebody to learn from. You usually have a coordinator, maybe a director level person, but you don't have that CMO. And so having something like the LMA is nice, where you can really start to think about what is innovation in a law firm, what does that client experience look like, how can we leverage technology in a law firm to draw more clients.
Right.
Which to be honest with you, I've spoken to thousands of firms in my career now, and it's not something that's brought up often.
No. And the truth is, because most people are busy with their day job, like Amanda was talking about, there aren't a lot of people who are really dedicating a lot of time and resources to being innovative. And yes, there are hackathons and, all kinds of different programs, but I think it's no one association owns that right now. And I know that the ALA and other groups are doing as much as they can to sort of drive innovation and new conversations. Um, but it'll be interesting to me to see how the industry evolves and how industry associations evolve, given how much pressure the market is under right now
Yep.
to make
Yep.
adjustments.
So what is, and I'm just curious, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. What does innovation look like in marketing for a law firm right now? Is it around client experience?
I would say yes, and I think kind of going back to that Accenture article that I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
that business of experience, figuring out how to marry what we're selling to the outside world with what we're doing once we get a client on board is really important. And I think there's not enough of that right now. There are so many silos, especially the larger a firm grows, right now,
Right.
as
Yeah.
Amanda sits there in her mid-sized firm, she has sort of a single point of view for the entire firm and all of its operations. Um, as you get bigger, there are fewer and fewer people who have that sort of insight into what's going on, and so I think it's really important that innovation is not just about what cool toys can we buy, but it's really about what are our clients expecting from us when they come on board, and how can we deliver that to them in the best way possible.
Sometimes it's just the communication.
Oh yeah.
I'm very inspired. I know I've said that like 18 times before, but I am very inspired. And I hope our listeners can take away some of this. And even, okay, let's end with this. You gave us the recommendation of holding the Lean Sigma event. If you're a small to mid-sized firm, what is one thing you can do now to have a huge impact on either client strategy or firm marketing?
Collect feedback.
Okay.
So
Like client
every
survey?
and internal employee surveys. And in
Okay.
order to do that, you need to build some trust, right? So this isn't something you can just send out like a survey monkey survey. And honestly, collecting feedback, I think, is one of the things that is so underrated in our industry. Most every other industry you work with, I mean, you can't sign up for a newsletter without somebody sending you like an email that says, what was your experience like signing up for our newsletter? Right? Like you get a text message like 2 minutes after, and you buy
Yeah.
something and it's like, what was your experience like buying that fake chocolate online? I don't know. I haven't gotten it yet, right? Like I don't have the feedback. But in law firms, like we will take somebody's $10,000 retainer, or what do you call it?
Advanced deposit,
Advanced deposit. Thank you very much.
trust
Um,
deposit.
so, we'll take people's money and we will say, here, give us your money and we'll do things for you. And then we'll never ask them like what this experience was like and how we serve them. We'll also employ people for 25 years and never ask them like, what do you think we should do better? And how do you think we could make this, place more efficient? So I think anybody can take feedback and
That is, gosh, I'm like, my mind is blown right now because I'm thinking about like, I ordered some plant fertilizer on Amazon, right? From some succulents. I can't
yeah.
grow anything, but I'm determined that I'm going to grow these succulents. And I ordered some succulent fertilizer, and it came in on Amazon or whatever. And I got an email the very next day that said, "Tell us how we did. We want your feedback. How was your plant fertilizer?" Well, I mean, it probably is going to do this as well as it can, and the succulents are going to die anyways. But to your point, the plant fertilizer people are asking for feedback.
Right.
And so your advice is we should follow what seems obvious
Right.
and
Oh, it's all
go
right in
out and
front of
get.
you.
It's all right in front of me.
You know
It's
what's
all right there in front of
interesting,
me.
Brandy? I love what you said. So, like, two things. First, I just hired an outside sales trainer, and
Mhm.
after we finished the engagement, they actually wanted to send me a gift. So it wasn't you, Amanda, although you were
Dang it.
great at it. They wanted to send me a gift, and so they went through the survey with me. How was the experience? What things do you like? But at the end of the survey, they actually asked, "Hey, if you had a positive experience, do you mind just writing a sentence or two here reviewing us?" Right? And they posted that review. So not only does it help you collect data, but you can then take it and get more reviews. And when you do double down on we're going to do something really well, that's how you start to be that trusted advisor, that source of truth in your specific practice area, in your specific region. The other thing, Brandy, to what you said, we started just doing ENPS scoring as well.
Mhm.
So employee NPS scoring, taking that feedback. And we've also started on a team basis doing like quarterly pulse checks. So
Right.
I'll send something out just to the sales and marketing team, and I'll get more specific feedback to what we're doing. Oh my gosh, the stuff you get back is amazing. It's important though if you're doing that to actually do something with it, and
That's
for
the
your
key.
employees to see that you're doing something with it, or they won't lean in as much.
That's right.
But I totally agree with you. Those two things are amazing.
And I will say, just to follow on to what you said, do not collect feedback unless you are absolutely willing to act on
Yes.
it, because you will damage the relationships, whether it's that 25-year legal assistant or it's that brand new client who just paid you, loads of cash. Like if they give you feedback and you don't act on it, you have just ruined that relationship. I do want to give another like plug. So to two different companies. So Wicker Park Group, Laura Maherg and her friends there, they do amazing feedback training. And they also do client feedback collection. So they'll travel to your clients, they'll do phone interviews. They came in and trained one of my firms, and I cannot tell you the amazing impact they made on helping the partners, the shareholders, really understand why the feedback matters and what we're expected to do with it. So, I would definitely advise like get a company who does this for a living and can tell you how to do it right. There's also another company called Trust Mary who will visit your clients on site, collect their videoed feedback, and give you something to post on your website, right? A
Yeah.
commercial made by one of your clients. And so it runs the full gamut of like, we just want to send a survey to like, we want you on video on our website, but every bit of feedback makes you a better firm, right? As long as you're willing to act on it.
Wow. Okay. I have so much to unpack, and I really appreciate you sharing this with us. I hope that anybody listening gets at least one bit of inspiration that I've gotten. So let's wrap up. And I want you to go into our final segment. This is the
Okay.
pitch your passion segment. You're very passionate and you've pitched a lot of passions already, but let's hear your number one ready to go.
Well, so we talked about this a little before we got online. I love my kids, right? Most people love their kids, like to
Your
talk
sign
about.
in the background says the best mom ever. And I assure you, those are things my children have never written ever
Oh, that's
anywhere.
not true.
So
That's not true. I know that they have, but on that note, right? The Relatives is this organization I care a lot about here in North Carolina. They're based here in Charlotte, and it's an organization for kids who just don't have the support that kids like ours have, right? So they have a crisis center that's made out of a home that's on a very popular street here in Charlotte, where kids age 7 through 17 can come stay for extended periods of time if they've run away from home, or if they're maybe in the foster care system and are in transition between one place to another. They also have an on-ramp center that's for young adults to get the support they need. Maybe they're aging out of foster care, or they've been on the streets for a significant amount of time, and they need housing, and they need job training, and they need basic hygiene instruction that they
yeah,
haven't received throughout their life. So I'm very passionate about the Relatives. You can look them up online and donate to them. But if you're in the region or in the area and you want to volunteer, they have all kinds of opportunities. And even remotely, if you'd like to volunteer, they have a mentor program that they're relaunching. And it's important to me. I care a lot about kids. I used to be a CASA volunteer. It's a court-appointed special advocate.
yeah.
And I just want to make sure that as many kids out there have the support they need as is possible. So that's my passion.
Awesome. Brandy, thank you so much for joining us today. We really have a lot of great takeaways and some big inspirational ideas are going to come out of this, I hope. So thank you so
I
much.
appreciate you guys having me. This was a lot of fun, and I admire you both and how much heart and work ethic you both put forward. And I'm really grateful that you guys have this podcast for those of us out here listening.
Checks in the mail.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Mostly Legal Podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.
You can also check us out online on mostlylegalpodcast.com, where you can sign up for our email list, get weekly recaps, and get some of your very own Mostly Legal swag.